welcome to another episode of the Federal Church Presents Better Than Bloomberg. Continuing our coverage of the global financial system collapse 2023, the worst ever. The fudge is in. Today the CPI printed. Headline CPI dips to 2-year low as shelter costs roll over. Another month, another inflation print to jawbone over. The Fed's new favorite signal from the BLS is core services CPI x shelter. And this morning's print is good news with the year-over-year growth at the slowest since May 2022. Let's not forget, these are always fudged. And whatever fudging they did, just like you saw in the last video we put up, had a little bit of market shenanigans going on. And this one is a good explanation of the CPI fudged, where they did their little hedonic adjustments and such, where they basically took out all the items out of the basket where things would, have prices increased and replaced them with other crappy things, claiming that your standard of living somehow got better over time. Even though, as most of you know, your standard of living has suffered. And this is shadowstats.com, run by John Williams over here. And he explains what he does here. I don't think I'll go too much into it. But it has the already fudged CPI as if it were calculated using the methodologies back in place in the 1980s. In 1980, I mean. And as you can see here, this is pretty awesome. Your inflation is well into the double digits. And don't forget that's fudged too. So, yeah, whatever they put out today, dog crock of shit. You're getting poor. Headline CPI was expected to accelerate in April, plus 0.4% month over month, and met expectations with a drop in year-over-year CPI slowing dramatically, though the 4.9% print was slightly cooler than the 5% year-over-year expected. The all items indexed increased 4.9% for the 12 months ending April. This was the smallest, and again, it won't have all the items you actually buy and spend your damn money on, because it's just a basket of bullshit. This was the smallest 12-month increase since the period ending April 2021. Energy and gasoline was the main drivers to the downside, while shelter costs remain high, and will get higher as interest rates go up. Headline print below. The headline print is below pretty much all the major forecasts. 5.1% for Goldman, Citi, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley. 5.0% for the rest of the majors or bulge bracket there. Let's see here. Core CPI was also expected to rise by 0.4% month over month in April and met that expectation. Oh, we just read that. Met that expectation with year over year up 5.2%, very sticky. Not transitory, is it? Especially even when you fudge it. Again, we're well into the double digits, even with the 1980 version of the fudge. So, the energy index decreased 5.1% for the 12 months ending April, and the food index increased 7.7% over the last year, especially when they're destroying your food supplies. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.4% in April as it did in March. Shelter index increased 0.4% over the month after rising 0.6% in March. Index for rent rose 0.6% in April, and the index for owner's equivalent rent rose 0.5% over the month. The index for lodging away from home decreased 3.0% in April, to rising in each of the previous 4 months. The shelter index was the largest factor in the monthly increase in the index for all items less food and energy. Taking out all the crap that you spend your money on. As we noted last month, the shelter index has now topped out. Look at that. But just to add some confusion to the pot, owner's equivalent rent, again with their adjustments there, 8.1 rose 8.1% year over year, a new record high. Among the other indices that rose in April was the index for used cars and trucks, more stuff you spend your money on, which increased 4.4%, and the index for motor vehicle insurance, which increased 1.4%. The indices for recreation, household furnishings and operations, personal Apparel and education also increased in April. Several indices declined in April, led by the Airline Fares Index, because who has money to go? Which fell over 2.6% over the month after rising in February and March, especially when they're getting laid off. The index for new vehicles declined 0.2%, and the index for communication decreased 0.1% in April. Medical care index was unchanged in April after falling 0.3% the previous month. Index for hospital services rose 0.5% over the month after a 0.4% decline in March. The prescription drugs index increased 0.3% in April, while the physician services index was unchanged. The so-called supercore inflation, fudge numbers, also slowed to 5.0% year-over-year, with transport and medical care costs dropping month over month, which kind of happens when you drop dead. Don't really spend anything on medical care then, do you? The M2 is signaling that the stickiness is over and a tsunami of deflation is about to hit. I highly doubt it, especially when M2 is going to be rising exponentially in their money printing. Finally, inflation continues to outpace Americans' rising wages for the 25th straight month. There's that inflation, by the way. No wonder the Fed chair's approval rating is at record lows, a convenient scapegoat for the Biden administration as the IRA continues to grow. Don't forget what that happened. Did not pay your tithes. Your donations are your salvation.